Hey there, hope y'all are having a good day. I'm back in the nursery just after filming the booktube newbie tag. You see all the little duckies up here. There's some more further back, and so I may just rotate them out just for fun in between these videos if I remember to do that. What I wanted to go over real quick before it gets much darker and I lose the light in here is go over my books that I'm planning to read in July. And so I want to each month kind of do a themed challenge for myself because makes me think almost like when I was in college and I would nerd out over like the literature, syllabus for some of the classes I had because that's how my brain works. I'm not sure why, but I just love going into a deep dive to a certain subject or theme or place and setting and just inhabiting that for a while and seeing how those different books connect. Because I love a variety of books too. So if I can pick some kind of idea and then find a different way to connect that with different genres and nonfiction, especially nature writing, it really is fun for me to do that. And so what I started with, just to keep it very simple this month, is just find books for July that have summer in the title, because obviously it's the height of summer. I'm in Texas, we're feeling it, and I know a lot of this country is right now. Been in a really rough heat wave, I think a lot worse than it's been even here. And so I've got a stack of library books. I have some books that may go over some time, just books I own, but I really don't own a whole lot of them. I cleared out some before because I was bad about buying or thrifting a bunch of books, and then they pile up and I never read them, and it just bothered me. And so I really prefer to declutter. And so I have a small shelf I can go over sometime, but most of them I haven't read either. So I may try to include those in future ones, but none of them had summer in the title that I own. So I've got some library books, and then I'll mention some audiobooks because I do those a lot. Those are actually more accessible for me right now because I can do them while I'm driving and, taking care of my baby. I have a lot more time for audiobooks than physical. So I'm trying to structure more time to read, paperbacks and all that again too. So I'll go over my library books because those are, right here in front of me. And then the audiobooks I'll pop up somewhere over here, the little covers for them. So the first one, because we're halfway through July, I'm behind on the physical reading. I have done some, and I've already read it, but I'll talk about it towards the end of the month. I don't think it's been one of my favorites, but it was okay. And that is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Serle. I had heard of In 5 Years, and back when it first came out, I did have some interest in reading it, never got around to it, and hadn't really heard about this one. It came out just a few years ago, 2022, about 4 years ago. And I have already finished this one because it seemed like it'd be a quick read, and it was. And it probably won't be my favorite for the month, but I'll go over and give a final judgment call when we get towards the end of the month. So this one's done, but it was on the list. Right now, I have started this weekend this one that just kind of popped up when I was kind of combing through my library's catalog, and it was called The Last Summer of Reason by Tahar Djaout. I meant to look up his name. I'm sorry how to pronounce it correctly. But it's really interesting book. He was a journalist in Algeria who was murdered in the early 90s when there was a religious extremist group that took power in the country, and they really kind of targeted all the intellectuals and artists and journalists. And so this book was kind of an unfinished manuscript that other people found in his writings, and they published it after his death. And so it's, from what I've read so far and the introduction, it is pretty timely because it says it's a novel, but I think it's really more his writing about fears about fascism and extremism, be it religious or secular, and just not having enough people to stand up against that, when those forces kind of try to take over for a group of people. And so I think it will be a very interesting time to read that. And so I will be getting back to y'all shortly on this one. And then the other books I have, I think they're pretty well known. This one I'm not very familiar with, but it's Summer by Allie Smith. I've read a little bit about them. I know she has like a quartet of novels, and so I'll probably be doing the rest of the seasons of hers through the next year or so. I think that'll be kind of a fun little mini project to do. Oh, look, there's a cute little, I don't know what that's about, but it's cute. And so I know it's more kind of contemporary fiction. I know a lot of it's focused on things going on like in modern times. You know, someplace else listed as kind of a prose poem. It seems like people kind of love them or kind of about them. So I'm curious to see. So we hopefully will get this pretty soon. But I think the colors on it are at least cute. And then this was a book I had checked out last summer, but I just was in a slump then and just didn't finish it. I think I read the first 3 pages and then I didn't read any of the books I borrowed that time. But it is Kakigori Summer by Emily Itami. And so I know it's about 3 sisters who all come back to stay over the summer together. And it's just a lot of, sounds like family drama, and they've all taken very different paths, so, you know, what's going to unfold when they all get back together and are singing on the same roof. I do like messy family drama when it's just on paper. So I'm looking forward to that one. I'm going to start it right away because it's more contemporary, it sounds like, and I want to get a little break from it after reading the Italian Summer. But I will get to that one the next book or two. And then the last one of the library books was one I also had borrowed last summer and then didn't get to, but I was kind of sad I didn't because it's Prodigal Summer by Barbara Kingsolver. I have read a couple Barbara Kingsolver books. We had to read the Poisonwood Bible when I was in high school, and there's still scenes from that book that haunt me. That's been over 10 years. Very, I think, incredibly well-written book. And there's scenes of it that I don't think I'll ever forget. And then I read Demon Copperhead on audio, I think it was last year, and loved it. I still think about Demon pretty regularly. And that was one, I don't know if I would have liked it as much in print because I think the narrator for the audiobook was just so good at inhabiting Demon's voice that those are going to be kind of linked together for me, I think, forever. And so I've read those of Barbara Kingsolver, so I'm really excited for this. I think it's the biggest of these, but I'm excited for it because she can't do much wrong from what I've seen so far. So those are all the library books. And I've only read the little bottom part, so I got I'm probably a little too ambitious, but we're going to try. I may move a couple of these to audiobook if that ends up keeping up better. Okay, this is where I want to practice the, ta-da, for the audiobook covers. So a couple I've done so far already because they were short, and I'll talk about them more when I wrap up towards the end of July. There was Summer by Edith Wharton, which was written in I think it was the early 1900s. It's a novella. She wrote a couple other books that I haven't read, but I've heard of. Age of Innocence was one of them that had sounded familiar. But it's a story about a girl who's been taken in as a ward. She was born in this kind of community of outcasts, and then she's adopted by this more family that's established in this little tiny town, and grows up there, but she never seems to feel like she really belongs there. And it's kind of her coming of age over one summer. And there's, of course, just a lot of drama. Some melodrama, I'd say. But it had some interesting things in it that surprised me for a writer at that time, especially a woman writer. So I'll talk about them more when we get towards the end of the month. But over here, hopefully, I'll have a cover for Summer by Edith Wharton. I also have already read the Summer book by Tove Jansson. That was one I had borrowed also a long while back, and then just couldn't get in the mood for it at that time. So I tried on audio this time, and that I really did enjoy it. It focuses on a little girl, Sophia, and her grandmother, and their dad's there, but I don't think he even has any dialogue in the entire book. He's just kind of a silent, busy presence in the background. So it's really Sophia and her grandmother, and they're staying off this island off the coast of Finland for the summer. They have a little house there, and so it kind of follows their adventures, but there's, they argue and, play, imagination games and, weather through storms, but there's undercurrent of, grief and, just some family dynamics kind of in the background, even though love is focused on this interactions with this kid. And it's just really, I'll probably gush about it later on, but I really did enjoy it. It had just the vibes that I love. And so that one's already done. Of course, those are very short ones, but there's Summer Book by Tove Jansson. A couple of others that I'm working on through Hoopla audiobooks. There is The Last Summer on State Street by Toya Wolfe. So from what I remember, that one, it takes place at a apartment in Chicago. I think that's about to be knocked down, but it's these 3 girls who kind of become friends, and I think it goes, later on into their lives. I know the main one's Fifi, I believe, is the protagonist. I've started maybe like 30 minutes into it, but I'm hoping to get back to it soon. I heard it sounds like it's good. It's pretty recent release, and it's only about 6 hours, so I'm going to get back to it soon. I'm really working more through Ghost Summer right now by Tananarive. There's the cover for it. And she wrote The Reformatory, which I think made the rounds a few years back. I did read that one. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and I enjoyed it. It was intense, I don't know if you've read that or The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. I believe they both talk about the same, the Dozier School, which was a reformatory school in Florida that, really just had a long record of abuse and, deaths of its students, and especially young black boys in Florida that were sent there, and just the horrible things that they endured. And so Ghost Summer is a collection of short stories and then a novella included in it. It's the same title as the book that she wrote, and I think it's all kind of a precursor to her writing The Reformatory. So she's got her town of Gracetown in there that you see in that book also, and different characters inhabiting it. I remember some names. I think McCormick is also in Reformatory, and he pops up in these stories. And so I'm working through that one. I'm a chicken when it comes to horror, so that's difficult. The first story, I had to pause it and take a break because it was getting to the, what I thought was the climax of it. And I was like, I can't hear what happens next. And so I looked it up later and read it because it's less visceral for me on print than when I'm listening to it. And of course, there was like 2 paragraphs left, and it was not as, awful as I thought it was going to be. But she did get me. I was like, okay, I've had all I can take. So now I'm just more trusting and getting through. I just finished the novella. It was broken up into several chapters, and so now there's short stories. I'll probably do one a day, I think, the next few weeks to finish it out. But so far, I'm enjoying it. I'm not a big short story reader, but I think with it being more horror, suspense, it's kind of a good mix because it doesn't meet my full, very low tolerance for that genre, as it would over a whole novel. I don't think I could do that. So, and then there's a couple others. I'm going to try to read The Narrowboat Summer, which I just found when I was just combing through Hoopla. I just said, find me any books that have summer in the title. And that didn't look like a contemporary romance because that's just not my kind of book. But that's most of the books about summer, it turns out, when you look. And it appears to be about 3 women, again, about 3 women, who joined riding a boat on canals through England, I believe. It kind of follows their stories. And so it just sounds kind of like interesting, fiction. So we'll see. And then there's a few others I may get to if I have time. Again, I have more luck with audiobooks, so I may be able to fit in more titles on, using my Spotify hours and Libby. So I try to use all the library resources I have. But right now, that's what I've got right now for my little July summer challenge. And so we'll see. I'm already still brainstorming for August, so I'm trying to hold off next 2 weeks at least, focus on this, and then, you know, get excited and plan for that. So hopefully I could post that video closer to the start of August, not, you know, feels like I'm halfway through the month. So we'll see, but that's what I got. So hopefully I'll come back to y'all soon with some other updates. And, you know, if you've got any books that you think are quintessential summer that you're reading right now, let me know. I'm always curious, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye.